running around for $100 I can get it. If anybody wants to go in on it, I can get it by the ton, 3,000 pounds.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt Horn. I'm the owner of Horn's Forge and Foundry in Sparker, Texas. It's a very rural community out in the middle of East Texas. We're known as the knife capital of the world. We got a real cool case knife store. If you're ever in the area, come check us out.
What got you started in smithing?
Oh man, I would have to say watching Western movies as a young kid. There was always a village blacksmith. There was always, some scene in a movie of horseshoeing being done, farrier work. And I always was attracted to the molten metal, and I thought it was cool. But one of the movies that really set it off, and it's some of the worst blacksmithing I've ever seen, but it was one of the Highlander movies. Yeah, and he he went back home to Scotland or wherever, and he found his old anvil, but it's not like a period correct anvil, and everything he had, it was just like, oh, these tools are just fine. And watching that movie, I was pretty young watching that movie, but I was very inspired by that movie because it was at a time when he was like, he got his butt kicked. He was real vulnerable. Life wasn't going his way. I think his sword broke, and he had to make a new one. So it was just like a process where, as me being a young kid, seeing that, like, dang, like Highlander, he's pretty cool. He's tough. But then he got his butt kicked, and it's like, man, well, if he can fall down, anybody can. But he got himself back up, and that's kind of the really what's really neat about blacksmithing and forge work is like, man, you could be having just a really bad day, and you can go out in the shop and create something that is just truly remarkable, and it shows your skills. And so that's just one of the favorite things that kind of got me started in doing this. So
it's actually a curiosity about Highlander. That was one of my favorite childhood movies, and just it's been a long time since I've even seen it. I don't even remember the anvil in there.
But it's a traditional London pattern anvil,
okay.
And it's just like, man, that's so odd, because it's like that anvil probably wasn't made until the 1880s, and it's just chilling out on your property, But it's Hollywood. It played well with the story and it worked, but seeing it now, it's like, that shouldn't be there, but it's still cool,
Yeah, and compared to that forge welding scene on Lord of the Rings, that's pretty subtle too.
Yeah. Yes. It fit the movie well. It was cool when she's, reforged the sword and from the shard and that, it was just it was a very iconic scene. I think it was done well. That was, it was cool, but yeah, not the best forge welding. Again, Hollywood for you.
Exactly. It's pretty funny when you go through that scene and it gets to the part where they're welding it together, and then it's like, if you know what's going on, it's the worst scene ever.
It is. It's like, whew, that's gonna break.
Yeah, the lead up is awesome, but
no, what are you doing?
Right. So, what are some goals and aspirations for your shop?
One of my goals is to eventually do this full time. It's more part time. Like, I have a day job, and when I get off from the day job, there's always someone who has some kind of need in the community. Either a piece of farm equipment's broken, and it needs to be welded or repaired. And believe it or not, a lot of farm equipment is still repaired on an anvil. Talking, plows and levers and things that farmers use. And so I use my anvil. I would say probably almost every day there's something I'm doing on the anvil for farm equipment, and it's just it's a vital piece of equipment, just like a tractor is a vital piece of equipment on a farm. It is a vital piece of equipment to have in the shop for repair. One of my, to do it full time, if people see my shop doors, if the shop door's open, I'm open. I'm out there. I'll get phone calls all the time, people saying, "Hey man, I saw your shop doors closed. I guess you're not home." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." But no, one of my goals is to hopefully do this full time within the next few years. So I just got to get bills and everything lined out right. So
yeah. It's always the bills.
Oh, tell me about it, man.
The true dream killer of bills.
Yeah, and taxes.
Are there many blacksmiths that are doing like what you're doing the same in your area?
I am a part of a Beaumont Blacksmith Association, and it's a few of us from, like, I'm in Spurger. There's a couple guys from Fred, Warren, Beaumont, LaBelle, and it's a very good group. We like to meet at least once a month, and we're all from different towns, but we all kind of like congregate to Beaumont because that's like the next largest, or that's like the big town next to all of us. And
Okay.
there's also like a historic Spindletop museum there, and at that museum there's some other blacksmiths who run that, and they're part of our Beaumont Blacksmith Association. And so all of us as a group, we keep that Beaumont Blacksmith Association going. And there's no one else in my community because my community is very small, and then that's everyone kind of funnels to where I'm at because I've got a lot of shop equipment, lathes, milling machine, grinders. I have machine shop tools, metalworking tools. I've got everything you need to fix your tractor or farm equipment, and also do blacksmithing and hobby stuff too. So yeah, I'm kind of the lone wolf out there. A lot of times things get broken in my community and they stay on people's farms until they need it. And then it's a necessity, like, man, I really need this chisel plow repaired, or I need this repaired, and so it's not until it becomes a dire need until it really, until it really gets fixed. So
It sounds like you're pretty much like the go-to guy out there
oh yeah.
for all that.
Oh yeah, and there's stuff that's way out of my toolbox that I've been doing for people, and then it's not always easy because people expect things to be fixed right away, and you just got to work with people, tell them what There's so many times I tell people this is not something I can do for you. Like, I can't make this part, or I don't have the material to do this, and sometimes that's a really hard thing to tell someone. But it's also part of being a good blacksmith. Like, you got to know your limits. It's like, hey, yeah, I can make this, but it's not going to be exactly right. So, I can stress to everybody, just know your limits. Have a goal of where you want to be. Keep pushing to get there, but don't overwork yourself or don't make a commitment that you really can't keep. Because, man, it's just, when you can't meet someone's expectations, man, it hurts. They tell everybody, and then everybody tells everybody, So
it's easier to take the small hit of turning down work than flopping on work.
Yes, that's something I've learned. Something I gotta say it. I learned it the hard way, and yeah, if you just be honest with people, like, that's kind of out of my toolbox, but I'll give it a shot, but I'm not making any promises or, I really don't have the equipment to make this. So you may want to go somewhere else, so.
Okay. Vision got blurry.
Oh.
So, how'd you come up with the name for your shop, and what's the story behind the name?
Well, man, I'm a Horn, and the place I live, it's been a family farm that's been in my family for multiple generations. I think I sent you one of the pictures. There's like an old log cabin, and there's there's a rivet forge, there's a couple anvils, there's like a little pedal grinder. Those items have been in that log cabin like since they were new. I've had my great grandfather, he was a blacksmith. My single great grandfather, he was. My grandpa didn't do a lot of blacksmithing, but he did do a lot of wheelwright work. Like he would repair, like we still have some of the old wagons that he would fix, and wagon wheels that are just, there's a few of them. We have a lot of neat wagon repair tools that are still on the farm that I own now. And like these tools have been in my family for a couple generations, and it's just kind of cool that I'm continuing in the footsteps of what my family had been doing for hundreds of years. And it's just cool to be back on that property doing what they were doing. And in a way, I'm not building wagons, but I can definitely, if you have a wagon, I can probably repair it,
Yeah.
So.
That's just a lot of good stuff to keep around too, because eventually there's going to be like a museum that is going to need a wagon repaired, and they're not going to want to take it to, some metal shop. They're going to want to take it to like a traditional functioning black.
Yep. And we have I still have a hand crank ring roller. I've got the ratchet type metal ring roller. It has a really long track. It's not like the normal ones you see that usually have like a 12-inch or 16-inch track. This one's got a 36-inch track, and it was even used to make wooden above ground storage tanks. It had like these metal bands that go around the tank, and it's a little bit wider. Like these are like an 8-inch wide roll. And so you would hand crank it, and it would make like a perfect circle. So you could make the band to go on like a wooden storage tank. They were real popular. I think for like storing molasses and things like that, different syrups and different products. And as in the industrial, the oil market got bigger in this area in Texas. That tool was used a lot to build these wooden storage tanks. So it's just cool that I have one that's been on that farm, or been on my farm for probably, I think 120, 130 years. I think it was made in the 1880s, and like it still works. I have to send you some pictures of it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Do you ever think of like setting up like a little museum thing for people to come take a look at?
Man, people have asked me to do that because I've got some tools. I've got some axes and things that are just like, it's out of this world, man. Like I didn't expect that when I bought this place. I know it's been in my family for a long time, but I didn't expect like the amount of history to be there. Especially around metalworking, and just like, wow, like this stuff is so cool, and it's right up my alley. So yeah, some of these pieces are very I wouldn't say museum quality, but like it would be a museum that you get to touch things and get to use it, because like I use these tools, almost every day. I've got several champion tongs and of 2 champion 400 blowers, the hand crank ones, and I still use that in the shop. Of course I do have an electric fan hooked up to my forge now. I also have a propane forge, but it's just something about using hand crank equipment. I've found that you can control the heat a lot better than when I have like a little electric fan. The electric fan's great on my forge, on my coal forge, when I'm doing like I'm trying to create a bunch of items at once. But when I'm trying to make one of my favorite items that I like to make, I love making these little pickle forks. They're not hard to make.
Oh yeah.
Love that.
They pop out. I can pop these out real quick. I love using these for barbecuing, and I also do this one here. It's kind of got like a rope twist, but it was round stock that I beat, or I twisted it and then I beat it square, and it's just got a really cool texture. It's got a really cool look to it, and I love making. I call it cowboy cookware, or just it's country boy stuff. But I mean, everybody needed one of these. Whether if you were a country guy or wherever you were, you needed something to poke your meat, turn your meat, something to poke the fire. I love making stuff like this, and I love using that hand crank forge blower to create this, because if I use my propane forge, it doesn't tend to get exactly hot enough where I want it to forge and for it to stick right. I usually got to play with the burners a little bit, have to play with the doors and putting certain bricks in front of the openings of it. Not talking bad about propane forges. I love them. They work great. It's just using a coal forge with a hand crank blower. I can control the heat a lot better, and I can get the forge a lot hotter than I anticipated by just, the faster you crank that crank, the more air is going to your fire. So, yeah.
What are some challenges that you faced becoming a blacksmith, and how did you overcome those?
Man, this is going to be kind of funny, but one of the biggest challenges what I have to face is getting coal. I live in a place, like I said, it's very rural. I do not even have a mailbox. Like, that's how rural this. Like, we don't have a mail route. That's how rural this place is. So you just can't get on Amazon. You just can't get on a place and order coal. I usually travel to like Cleveland, Texas. There is a farrier shop there, and it's out of my way. But believe it or not, getting coal is a problem, and it's a problem that I have to face and have to deal with quite a lot. But that's why I try to buy in bulk as much as possible. Probably another challenge, finding time. Don't bite off a project that is too big that you can't handle. Just know your limits. Finding time's a big thing. You got to balance work. You got to balance life, kids. You got to keep the wife happy. There's a lot of things you got to juggle. So it's one of those things where you really need to. There's balance to everything. Just find time and if and do the best you can. If you're another challenge is sometimes you can be your own worst critic. Like, man, some of the early stuff I ever made, and I brought this here. Like, this is one of the first things I ever made, and it's real simple. There's a lot of stuff wrong with it. It's a piece of rebar. It's a piece of trash metal. But I was just learning. I really didn't know much about how to twist, how to scroll. But it's one of my favorite pieces because there's so much wrong with it. And it's ugly. But then you get to see pieces that, like, some of your final pieces are this is some of the best stuff I've done. I consider some of this my best work. And it's like, man, the scrolls are right. The twisting's right. The look of it's right. The little hook is right. Everything's right on this piece. It's like I'm proud of it. So being your own worst critic can be a big problem. So keep those. So whoever hears this, if you make a crappy piece, man, keep it hanging on the wall. Let it be a reminder of where you came from, and just try again. Because man, the more you repeat something you make, the better and better you're going to get at it. And if you make something and you completely screw it up, leave it in the fire too long, or it cracks or it breaks, man, keep it. Let it be a reminder that, it was a tough lesson you learned, but keep trying. That's my best advice to anybody. Just keep trying. Just do it. Even if you screw it up 10 times, you learn 10 ways how it didn't work. So
exactly. Your mistakes are going to be the greatest thing that you learn from.
Man, I'm telling you, they are. I have learned some stuff. You've got to watch your fire. That's and you got to keep your focus. So, oh yeah.
I'm gonna take one quick second here. A cat is meowing at the door and she won't stop.
Oh, you gotta take care of your cat, man.
Pretty sure that's not she. I'm pretty sure.
That's Ragnar.
Hi, Ragnar.
Our wannabe forge cat. He only wants to be a forge cat to go after the other forge cats. He's a little asshole. Otherwise, he's a really sweet cat.
He's nice to humans.
And so that actually kind of your answer kind of covered the next question too. So this is probably one of the most important questions I ever ask anybody, and that's, what is blacksmithing to you?
Man, this is like, and don't laugh, because what it means to me, this almost seems like a ripoff of Live, Laugh, Love, but dude, it really does bring me peace. It brings me joy, and it just brings me to a sense of connection with my ancestors, and not just like direct ancestors. I'm talking about ancestors of your human race that didn't have the opportunity to go to a steel yard and purchase steel. This brings it back to an age of the early Vikings, to the early Romans, to throughout history there has been great blacksmiths and tinsmiths and people who work with metal, and something as not trying to say like fire is sacred, but man, fire is cool. It connects everybody. There is, when you look into a flame, when you look into a hot coal, it's like, man, you're seeing an element of the earth that, it goes deeper than so much more than, hey, this is something hot, stick some metal in and make something. It brings me a lot of peace, and it brings me to a point where like I can connect with things that are so much bigger than me and beyond me. And like, I don't mean to get all philosophical or whatever, but it's just like, it means a lot to me. You just connect to different people and people who've come before you that like, man, they were in this exact same spot who they made these things, whether it was an axe head for chopping wood or a spear to fight an enemy. Everything was made in the fire, and it came out, you put a weak material in the fire, and when you immersed it, man, you forged it and created it to what you needed to. Like, it came out stronger. It came out a tool that you needed to survive. And so I get in touch with that, and that's what it means to me. I really can't put a name on it. It's hard to describe, and like, unless you do it and you see what you can take a raw material from what it was and transform it. Like, it's all about life. Life always changes, and you've got to roll with the punches. And it's like, man, you can take a piece of crap and turn it in. You can just take a piece of junk metal and craft it into something, really useful or beautiful or elegant, or just a neat tool. You can just really, it makes me feel that connection to it. So.
Right on. Yeah. It kind of sounds like kind kind of like I believe it's like kind of a spiritual connection to kind of like to the past. It's
Yes.
like
Oh yeah.
if you're not into like all the spiritual thing, I think it's still something that people feel like you were saying. I think that's just like a deep spiritual connection that we end up gaining, and I think
Oh yeah.
stick with it. It's like kind of like when the metal speaks to you, or I don't know. It is an ancient art, and it goes back thousands of years, and just throughout that time, imagine how many smiths there have been. And if you're really into it and you're getting that spiritual connection out of it, I absolutely feel all
Yeah.
that.
It's mind blowing, man.
It is because like when you're just like going at it and you don't really have a particular thought in mind of what's going to turn out, you either end up with like a turd because you didn't pay that much attention, or you end up with something kind of awesome.
Exactly.
I think a lot of that's got to come from somewhere. From I mean, it's experience, it's skill, and I think a huge part of it is that spiritual connection.
It is. It sure is, man.
Oh, I just thought it was beautiful the way that he described that.
I've heard
My tribe also did have blacksmiths. We
That is
just
true.
made armor from yen.
that is something I always forget. Her tribe, the Tlingit Raven clan up in Alaska, they were blacksmiths.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's something I don't think is all too common in Native history.
I'm not sure. I know that the Tlinkits used to trade with the Chinese, and they take the Chinese currency and they'd make armor out of it.
Oh, I believe it. That's awesome.
And
That's cool that's in your history, you know.
well, I got that, and then I got Scandinavian on my grandma's side too.
Yes.
So the next question is kind of along the same lines of the last one. Just kind of think it touches on something like a different aspect of it. What has blacksmithing brought to your life?
Ooh, man. It's taught me a lot of things. It's taught me metallurgy. Definitely sharpened my skills as a welder. Believe it or not, you know, a lot of people kind of laugh at that at the refinery I work at. You know, they're like, how does this old way of doing something make you a better welder? And I was like, man, metal work is metal work. Doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly.
And anything you do in your craft, it sharpens your skills, you know. So it doesn't matter what it is, just keep at it. You know, your skills will sharpen.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Kind of hard to sometimes it gets hard to pick a question because some stuff from other questions get covered and answers from other.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all
Oh
good.
no, that's great. A lot of beginner smiths really need to hear from people who have been working for a while. Do not bite off more than you can chew.
Exactly.
Don't. You know.
That's one of the things I was going to get to, because we mentioned like you don't want to bite off more than you can chew, and pretty much stay within your capabilities.
Yeah.
And while at the same time trying to like push those out and get better and expand your ability. What advice would you have for someone that's looking to get into blacksmithing, and what misconceptions would you want to clear up for them?
Man, a huge misconception is anvils are too expensive. And, you know, some anvils are very, very expensive.
Yeah.
I will agree. But spending $600, or let's just say spending $800, let's just say $800. You're going to spend $800 on an anvil. Make sure it's good quality. Make sure it's got a reputable name, whether if it's a brand new anvil or something that is an antique. Just make sure it's in decent shape. It's got some good rebound, and it's got a good ring, you know, got a good ring to it. Make sure you're getting a good anvil. You know, if you look at auto mechanics, they spend $20,000, $30,000 on their snap-on tools. They're buying somewhat the best. I wouldn't say Snap-on is exactly the best, but they're known as a high quality, high grade tool. They're a good brand. I will say that. So I mean, if you look at an auto mechanic, they spend quite a bit of money on their tools. If you look at say a pipe fitter is going to spend easily $5,000 on some tools, whether it be pipe wrenches, certain set of wrenches, your a job box to keep on the job site. You know, you're going to need various types of rulers. So I mean, you look at different trades, different professions, you spend money on tools. And so if you're wanting to do blacksmithing, you've got to spend a little bit of money to get a quality tool. And you know, if you spend good money on a quality tool, that tool is going to last you a lifetime. If you ask like auto mechanics, you know, hey, their tools get worn out and they have to replace some anvils. If you treat an anvil right, it will last you a lifetime. I've got a couple Wilkinson's and Sons anvils and a couple Queens Dudley anvils that have been on my farm for, I want to say, since the 1860s, 1870s. And man, they're in great shape. Like, they have probably 80-90% rebound. They're in excellent condition. The faces aren't chewed up. You know, I mean, you can tell the edges have been worked. They're very rounded. They're very, very worn. But they're such good anvils. And of course, those were given to me, but I've got some other anvils that I've paid, you know, some good money on, like some Hayes-Budden anvils. They're some of my favorite anvils is a Hayes-Budden, just because I like the quality that they're made in. They're also made, you know, Brooklyn, New York. You know, it's cool to have an anvil, you know, Brooklyn, New York on it. You know, it's neat to have. And you know, I think I paid $900 for it. It's 250 pounds.
That's a steal right there for that price and that weight.
Yeah, it really was. And but some people see it and they're like, why did you spend so much money on this? And it's like, man, this is an anvil that I use probably every day. It's my go-to anvil. I can move metal on it real fast, real easy. It's just, to me, I feel like it's a high performance anvil. You know, it's like it's the hot rod of anvils for me, and it's really neat. I've got a lot of tools that fit on it. I've got it set up on its stand that, you know, I can, if I need to flip the anvil on its side, because I use so many different of an anvil. Also, I cast these. It's out of aluminum. It's a little 2-piece cast, but that anvil I have, that Hayes-Budden, I flip it on its side right here, and I use this inside of that anvil to do scroll work. I flip it on this side, and this gives me a whole nother radius without having to really make a scrolling jig. You can flip that anvil upside down, and on that Hayes-Budden, someone had dished it out, and you can use that to make spoons, to make spatulas and other cookingware, or just, you know, if you need to make a dome, it's got the bottom of it has been dished out. It's really, someone did it. I didn't do it. It was done before when I bought it. But, you know, it's just, I like the Hayes-Budden's curve. You know, it's a London pattern, but it's more of a drawn out. It's got a more drawn out heel on it. So it's really, really neat. And that might be something else that a lot of people don't use either on their anvils is flipping it this way to get this curve, or getting this one. There's a lot of neat things you can make with flipping the anvil up or down. I flip mine I know a lot of smiths too also blunt their anvil. This Hayes-Budden is sharp as a tack on the top, and man, you can put a piece of hot metal in a couple hits and it pokes a hole. Now you'll have to rework the hole to make it fit the size you want, but it's really neat. I'll have to send you some pictures of my setup with that anvil. So it's one of my favorite ones. So
that is an amazing example of like just stopping for a second and looking at things in a different way. Like I never would have thought of. We wouldn't be able to do with ours because it's welded to the stand.
Right.
But
you could always, if you find another one, you have a whole nother, there's so many ways you can use this. An anvil's a tool, and some anvils you can on their bases. They even have. I have a Trenton anvil, and I use it specifically to make barn latches or barn handles, because it has the perfect shoulders and the groove. It's like your fingers fit in it perfectly. I don't know if that was something that Trenton did, or it's just something that I saw one day using my anvils, and I was like, man, I can flip this on all different sides and get a variety of different just a huge variety of different curves and different things you can make with your anvil. It's just not the horn, it's not just the table, and it's not just the face. There are so many different ways you can use that anvil. So
it's the whole damn thing.
use the whole damn thing, man. It's a hunk of steel. Beat on it.
Other than using the horn and the face, I never would have considered doing any of that at all.
Man, that's so awesome that you did this, because this might be answering another one of your questions. Like, man, like, what do I intend to get out of this forge is sharing knowledge. You've probably done things I've never heard before. And, and I'm sure I've done things too. And that's one of my biggest things, even being part of the Beaumont Blacksmith Association. It's like, man, I want to link up with anyone and everyone. I want to share knowledge. I want to tell you where I have completely failed and sucked. And I want to show you some stuff that I've done really well and what works for me. And, you may have a technique that, I've never even thought of either. And that's what's like so good about you taking the initiative and you just have the desire to start this. Because, like, man, I would have never said, hey, I want to interview blacksmiths and see what's going on. And, man, I saw your post. I thought it was like, damn, what a good idea. But, like, I would have never taken that step to do that. And you're located in Oregon?
Southwest Washington.
Southwest Washington. And we are completely, like, if you look at the map, we are thousands of miles away from where you're at in Washington to where I'm at here in Texas. Like, my hat is off to you, man. Like, I really just tip my hat at you for doing this, to you taking the time out of your what you're doing out of your schedule to do this. It's just, man, I think it's awesome. So,
well, thank you very much. But that was pretty much the entire intent behind this, was to, like, just gain knowledge from other blacksmiths and get to know other blacksmiths. And I did YouTube searches to find, like, interviews, and all I found were like fans of the forge doing interviews with, like, Forged and Fire champions. And it's like, well, I'd love to interview a Forged and Fire champion and get, like, their story and stuff, but like, so want to get exposure for pretty much everyone else, So I figured, why not? Originally, I figured, why not start, like, a platform where I go to the forge, and that's still part of the plan, but with the lockdowns and stuff, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to get to other people's shops, especially in Washington State, I'm going to say, because people are pretty freaked out over here. And it's
Cases are kind of on the rise here too. I wouldn't say a lot of people are freaked out. I think a lot of people in my area and in our area, they get it, but it's not like a severe case like what you see in the news. But you got to take with what you hear with a grain of salt. So, that's all I'm going to say on it. But
take it with a grain of salt. I personally, when it comes to all that, the politics and stuff, I mean, you see these politicians who are passing these laws, and they go out and have haircuts and go out and eat at restaurants, and it's basically rules for thee but not for me.
Yeah, that's sad, man. Yeah,
and that's straight up tyranny right there.
That's not it's not leadership on both sides or all sides of of government or whatever. That's not leadership.
No,
that is not leadership.
And it comes out of both mouths of the same two-headed snake.
You are right.
I don't think about it as Evergreen Vipers.
But yeah, the original idea was to go out to people's forges and pretty much do a kind of like a one-sided version of what we're doing, an interview with a what do you call it? Forge demonstration.
Got you.
And I want to kind of set up the same thing with like the Skype and stuff, but like doing like demonstrations and whatnot require a bunch of different camera angles and doing shots just right so you can see it, and that's just a little difficult to set up here. So like the next best thing would be like the 2-on-1, like we're doing the Skype interviews and stuff, just as we're doing it. And people seem to really like both ideas.
Yeah, I do. I can do probably take some. I have to get someone to record, but man, I can do some really cool videos of forge welding and what I do to repair some of these plows. And of course, you break one of your plows, you can go to Tractor Supply and go buy a new one. But if you start breaking 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, man, they're $70 to $100 a piece, and it adds up real quick to and I can do a repair in the shop, and it's usually no matter what, it's usually $30 an hour is what I charge to do any kind of metal work. But most of the time, I can get everything done and repaired in about an hour. So, but I don't know what it is. People always give you more, and it's just it means a lot. You tell some, oh man, it's just $30, and they give you 40, or they, it's just like, dang, like I don't expect this, but I sure appreciate it. It's always nice to see people's gratitude. To like, man, I can't believe you fixed this. That's awesome. And it's just another humbling thing that, like, wow, man, like I love taking broken stuff and reforging it and making it into something useful. So, that's another thing people can take away from this.
Yeah, it definitely adds a increased sense of community.
Yes.
And as opposed to taking their plow to a shop or just going and buying a new plow. That's it. And at some point, it's better just to pay the hourly than go buy a new thing every single time.
Yep.
But that also gets you more work too.
Yes, it does, man. And it's always there's always something people want repaired. Boat trailers. We have the Nature's River close to me. There's a lot of big recreational lakes. People are always breaking stuff off their trailers. Doesn't matter if it's a little light bracket or whatever. There's always some kind of welding. There's always some kind of forge work. There's always something you can do. So, the garage door's open, I'm there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, did you have any questions for us?
Man, just thank y'all. Thank y'all for taking the time to do this, man. I really appreciate it. It definitely breaks up the craziness of this pandemic, gives us both something cool to think about, other than thinking about what's going on in the world, no matter who you are, you get caught up in all of this stuff that's going on, and it can weigh heavy on your mind. And when you can focus on what you love to do, man, it just like, I just really appreciate you taking the time to do this. So thank you.
Appreciate you coming on, and thank you. Like none of this wouldn't ever happen if people were willing to do it. So it's like I can't take all the credit. It's you, it's Yamez, it's Carolyn, and everyone else who is going to be on here. Cody, he was the first one. Cody from Iron Serpents Forge was the only episode of my original idea.
Oh, cool.
That's on our YouTube, but like I put that up, and then election stuff took off, and then election came by, and then it was like back to lockdown.
Yeah. Same thing here, man. It's like, when's this gonna end?
Hopefully sometime. Hopefully it doesn't have to come down to what I think it'll come down to.
Yeah.
See, it's on the back of everybody's mind. They
yes,
know,
it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me out. Not the pandemic, but the people.
Yes. It's hey man, we're just living in some scary times,
Sure.
but I think every generation has been faced with something that defines the generations, so
Yeah.
This is our moment, or it may not be right this moment, but it could be coming that, it will be our turn to make some decisions, so we'll
it'll come to our time to shine, and we'll either make it or break it.
that's it, man. We're either gonna make it or we're gonna break it. So
hopefully the latter, because I'd rather us make it.
yeah, I know. I just want to make stuff in my shop.
I want to make stuff in my shop, and I want to continue to be able to do so.
Yes.
All right. So once more for the people watching, could you give us your name, shop name, and where people can find your work? And if you have any final thoughts, go ahead.
Man, this is Matt Horn from Horn's Forge and Foundry in Sparger, Texas. You can find me on Instagram. I am Julius Dartez. That's JULIUS DARTEZ. That's just look me up on Instagram, and that's where a lot of my work will be. I'm always showing off anvils. I'm a big anvil collector. I'm a big antique tool collector. So I inherited a lot of stuff, but I also hunt this stuff all the time. And maybe that could be another episode we do. I can take you for a tour in the shop and just show you all the neat stuff, man. Got a lot of neat equipment, and it grows all the time. So
absolutely, I think you might have just inspired a new series.
Well, good, man. And I can share with people some anvil hunting tips, and what to buy and what not to buy, because I've bought a lot of junk, and I have bought a lot of good stuff, and I've learned the hard way. So I'll be more than happy to share with people what to look for and what to buy and what not to buy. So
all right, awesome. Well, I definitely could use some anvil hunting tips, because we've been hunting down an anvil for how long? And
about 1 year and 8 months.
Yeah, about 1 year and 8 months. And our Trenton that we came by just out of pure luck.
What? You know what? That's how it happens sometimes.
It is. I told the story on our last interview. I was on my way to go pick up a 75-pound Arm & Hammer, and the dude called when I was like halfway there. He was like 75 miles away. And I got halfway there, got a message from him saying, "Hey, I sold it."
Well,
and like 3 days later, a lady had responded to a 6-month-old ad of mine when I was looking for an anvil. And she sold me her dad's old Trenton anvil for $400.
Hey, that's awesome.
It's a 117-pound early 1900s.
Man, Trenton's a great anvil. I've got a few of them, and I really enjoy them. They're one of the best ones, I have to say. You know, they're in that top level of anvils. So
Definitely love the Trenton.
yeah. And that's a cool story, man. You know, it kind of goes back to, you got to have persistence, like,
Yep.
and like, you know, if you have a dream and you just got to have a little bit of hope, and man, and you got to throw that line out there. If you don't throw that line out there, no one's going to bite on it. And you know, it might have took 6 months, but hey, you got someone to respond. And you know, that's one of my tips, man, is you got to throw that line out there. But I could talk your ears off with horror stories of how I've gotten them, how I didn't get them, and you know, we can touch on that another time.
Going over all that and just getting tips would be very helpful for not only me, but anyone watching, you know?
Absolutely.
For the Padawans out there.
Yep, for the Padawan blacksmiths.
Man, believe it or not, we have a lot of young talent in the Beaumont Blacksmith Association. We had a new member, and she never swung a hammer. She's never made anything, and like within just a couple of hours of showing her a few things, man, she just did really well. So, and now she's hitting us all up. Like, where do I find this? Should I get a propane forge? Should I get a coal forge? And you just gotta kind of talk to her, like, you know, this controls your heat better, but this will give you a constant heat, and just kind of got to go through everything. But yeah, like you said, you got to help the bad ones, and you know, you got to help everybody. And that's what I love so much about the blacksmithing community, is that, man, you meet people who, you know, man, I can't do this, or do you have one of these, or can I borrow this? It's like, man, I'm more than happy to lend or let someone borrow something, or come to my shop and use it. You know, like it's a real, to me, it's one of the last true things of a community, you know, of a true community. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you worship. I don't care what what affiliations you have with whoever. If you forge and you want to work with metal, it's like, that's all I need to know. And man, we're gonna make some cool stuff. You know, it's like, there's no like discrimination with blacksmithing. Now, there is serious trash talking, you know, but that just comes with camaraderie between people. You know, you always got to be there. You got to have enough. Someone's got to yell at you for you to sometimes let things sink in, and I mean that in a good way. Like, positive critiquing will go a lot further than anything else, you know. So to me, you know, what we have is just a really good community through all people. And like, man, you telling me about, you know, you having a hard time finding anvils. I'm like, man, what kind of anvil you want? Let me know. I'll find you one. I'll ship it to you. You know, and that's another thing I do, man. If I find an anvil and I spend $300 on it, I'm going to pass it on to the next guy for $300. And what I'd always tell people, if you ever get out of blacksmithing and you want to get rid of this stuff, sell it back to me. I'd love to have it, because I want to pass it on to someone who wants it, you know. And I try to tell people, if you buy this anvil from me and you sell it for 3 or 4 times more than what you purchased it from me for, like, that's it. I'm not going to help you get another one.
Looks like we got everything pretty much covered.
Great.
Thank you for doing this. Go ahead and everyone give Matt a follow on Instagram. His links will be right down below. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you, man. Y'all have a good one.